When my boss, Ryan, first asked me to house sit, I was stunned. It was no secret that he valued loyalty, but trusting me, a 26-year-old junior marketing executive, with his family's home felt like a huge leap. Still, I accepted without hesitation. Not only was it a sign of his trust, but secretly, it felt good to know I'd reached a point in my career where my boss saw me as responsible enough for such a personal favor. The home was breathtaking. Spacious, modern, tucked comfortably in an upscale suburban neighborhood with manicured lawns and leafy streets. The afternoon sun filtered through massive glass windows, casting soft golden rays onto polished wooden floors. It smelled faintly of cedarwood and lemon, a scent both refreshing and subtly masculine. Ryan had left clear instructions, watering the plants, feeding the koi in the backyard pond, collecting mail, and generally keeping things running smoothly. The task seemed simple enough, but I couldn't shake a small flutter of nerves at the responsibility. After setting my small suitcase in the spacious guest room, I took a slow tour through the house. It felt strangely intimate, exploring someone else's living space alone. In the cozy den filled with bookshelves and tasteful artwork, my eyes caught a framed family portrait on the mantelpiece. I recognized Ryan immediately, smiling alongside his wife and their 2 young kids. Standing proudly at the back of the picture was an older man, Ryan's father, Jonathan. I'd briefly met him at last year's office Christmas party. He was a striking man, mid-50s perhaps, with silver-tinged hair and a quiet dignity that had stayed with me. His face carried the confidence of someone accustomed to authority. Yet there was a warmth in his eyes that made him approachable, even inviting. I lingered at the photograph longer than necessary, feeling a curious tug of attraction. Something I brushed off with mild embarrassment. I knew Jonathan lived out of town and rarely visited, so there was no real reason to dwell on him, other than the undeniable charm he possessed. Shaking my head, I moved on, determined to settle into my temporary home and not get distracted by idle fantasies. I followed Ryan's carefully written list of chores, watering lush green houseplants in sleek ceramic pots, double-checking the security system, and gently sprinkling fish flakes into the koi pond where vibrant fish surfaced lazily. Once I finished, I slipped into swim trunks and headed to the backyard pool, savoring the luxury I rarely had access to in my small downtown apartment. The cool water wrapped around me as I swam lazy laps, washing away stress I'd carried for weeks at work. Floating on my back, gazing upward at a perfectly clear sky, I silently thanked Ryan for giving me this little oasis, however temporary. As evening approached, I lounged in a deck chair with a paperback I'd meant to read for months, sipping chilled lemonade and losing track of time. Birds chirped softly from surrounding trees, the breeze gentle and warm against my skin. It was almost surreal how peaceful the place was, a stark contrast to the bustle of city life. Dinner was a casual affair. I threw together a simple pasta dish from ingredients Ryan had generously stocked for me. Eating alone in the vast, beautifully decorated kitchen was oddly comforting, though a bit lonely. I found myself daydreaming briefly again about Jonathan, wondering absently what he'd think if he knew a stranger was currently making himself at home in his son's house. Nightfall deepened the silence. I flipped on soft ambient lights and explored Ryan's carefully curated book collection. Selecting something intriguing, I settled onto the plush sectional in the living room, reading until fatigue nudged at the edges of my mind. When my eyelids grew heavy, I finally retreated to the luxurious guest bedroom. Slipping into the silky sheets felt almost decadent, and as I drifted into sleep, I couldn't help but think how smoothly this first day had gone. It never crossed my mind that this quiet weekend could be anything but peaceful. As I lay there, my mind replayed images of the home, the serene pool, the photograph of Jonathan. The last thought made my pulse quicken slightly again. But it was harmless, really. A fleeting fantasy brought on by the quiet intimacy of the home. Nothing more. As sleep enveloped me, I felt utterly secure, blissfully unaware that by this same time tomorrow, my little weekend of solitude and relaxation would be shattered. But tonight, in my naive certainty, I dreamed peacefully, unprepared, for the moment that was soon to change everything. I woke abruptly, my heart hammering in my chest. For a second, Confusion clouded my mind as I tried to remember where I was. The plush softness of the guest room mattress beneath me brought me back. Ryan's house. I dozed off reading, sunlight slipping into soft afternoon shadows outside. What had woken me? The answer came swiftly, snapping me fully awake. A metallic jingling at the front door, the unmistakable sound of keys rattling against a lock. Panic surged through me. Ryan had said nothing about anyone else stopping by. My mind raced. A burglar, a neighbor, or worse. Ryan back early, perhaps disappointed I'd fallen asleep instead of watching over his home. I swung my legs off the bed, hurriedly smoothing my rumpled clothes, heart pounding as I cautiously approached the entryway. The keys rattled again, louder, followed by a solid click. Breath hitching, I rounded the corner just as the heavy oak door swung open. Standing in the doorway, outlined by the golden glow of late afternoon, was Jonathan. He looked just as startled as I felt, freezing momentarily at the sight of me. My breath caught. Jonathan was somehow even more imposing in person than I remembered. He stood tall and broad-shouldered, his silver-streaked hair casually tousled, wearing an impeccably tailored blazer over a crisp white shirt, the top button casually undone. He exuded a calm charisma, despite the momentary surprise in his deep, blue eyes. "Oh." Jonathan's voice was rich and warm, a perfect match for his confident posture. He quickly recovered, offering a slightly embarrassed, charming smile. "Forgive me. I had no idea anyone was here." Ryan neglected to mention it. My heart rate began to slow as I processed his words. "Mr. Hargrove, Jonathan." I quickly corrected myself, trying to hide the flush creeping up my neck. "Ryan asked me to house sit for the weekend. I didn't realize anyone else would be coming by." Jonathan stepped fully inside, closing the door behind him with quiet authority, eyes twinkling warmly as if sensing my unease. "Please. No need for apologies. The confusion is mine entirely. I was traveling nearby on business, and plans changed, abruptly. I texted Ryan earlier, but clearly he didn't receive it, or forgot to pass it along." I nodded quickly, regaining composure as best as I could. Though Jonathan's presence was disconcertingly magnetic, he carried himself with casual elegance, a kind of seasoned confidence I found simultaneously intimidating and alluring. As he placed his briefcase gently down near the entrance, my eyes lingered briefly on his strong, capable hands. Flustered by my wandering thoughts, I cleared my throat, attempting professionalism. "If it's a problem, I can—" Jonathan lifted his hand in reassurance, cutting me off gently but firmly. "No, please. I'd hate to disrupt your weekend. Consider me the unexpected guest. I'll keep to myself and stay out of your way. Ryan trusts you. That speaks volumes." His graciousness eased my nerves slightly, but the tension in my chest refused to fully subside. "Honestly, I'm the intruder here," I joked weakly, relaxing a little as he chuckled softly, genuinely amused. "Nonsense. And it's Jonathan, remember?" His smile broadened, making the lines around his eyes more pronounced, a detail that was inexplicably attractive. "It seems we're stuck together for at least tonight." "Of course. Jonathan," I repeated, the intimacy of using his first name feeling unexpectedly significant. The space between us seemed filled with something beyond casual politeness, though I was certain it was just my imagination running wild. As Jonathan removed his blazer, hanging it neatly by the door, I stole a glance at him again. His presence felt commanding yet warmly inviting, an intriguing combination I couldn't seem to ignore. I quickly shook the thought away, reminding myself firmly, he was my boss's father. Completely off limits. "I'll take the downstairs guest room," Jonathan continued casually, seemingly unaware of my silent turmoil. "Ryan keeps it ready for when I occasionally visit. Don't let me interfere with your plans. I'm sure you were looking forward to some peace and quiet." I smiled awkwardly, nodding. "Actually, a little company might be nice. The house feels a bit empty alone." The words slipped out before I could stop them, my face warming again at the unintended honesty. Jonathan's expression softened. "Well, in that case, I'm glad to offer some company," he said, his voice lower, warmer somehow, and my pulse quickened again. "Perhaps we can share dinner later, It'd be nice to get to know the person Ryan trusts enough to guard his home. That would be great, I agreed quickly, perhaps too quickly. I tried to mask the eagerness in my voice, mentally kicking myself for my lack of restraint. Jonathan moved past me, gently squeezing my shoulder in passing. A casual, friendly gesture, yet it sent an unexpected thrill down my spine. Then, I'll get settled. See you soon, Caleb. He walked away, his confident steps echoing slightly through the house, leaving me standing alone by the entryway, breathless and confused by the sudden swirl of excitement and anxiety his presence had ignited within me. I'd come here expecting relaxation, quiet solitude. Yet now, standing frozen, my heart racing, all I could think about was the way Jonathan's gaze lingered on mine, the warmth of his touch on my shoulder, and the unsettling yet exhilarating realization that my weekend had taken a decidedly unexpected turn. The early evening air grew cooler, tinged with the mellow hues of twilight. After Jonathan retreated to the downstairs guest room to unpack, I busied myself in the kitchen, determined to act casual despite the fluttering nerves in my chest. I chose a simple grilled chicken salad, something quick and uncomplicated, hoping it would calm my mind as much as my hunger. Jonathan returned to the kitchen a few minutes later, sleeves casually rolled up to his elbows, top buttons undone to reveal the faint outline of his collarbone. He offered a warm smile, placing ingredients from the fridge on the granite countertop. "Mind if I join you?" he asked easily. "I'm afraid my culinary skills are limited, but I can manage a decent omelette." I laughed softly, relieved by his relaxed manner. "Of course, there's plenty of room." We prepared our meals in comfortable, slightly awkward silence at first. My gaze flickered to Jonathan occasionally, noticing the practiced ease in his movements, precise, confident, deliberate. I forced myself to focus on slicing vegetables, hoping my growing admiration wasn't too obvious. Jonathan finally broke the quiet, offering gentle conversation as he whisked eggs expertly in a bowl. "Ryan tells me you're rising fast in marketing. He has a lot of praise for you." I flushed slightly, feeling flattered. "Ryan's been generous with opportunities. I'm still trying to earn it every day." He paused, turning to face me, genuinely intrigued. "That humility speaks volumes. Trust me, he notices." Jonathan's voice was smooth, deep, and reassuring, each word resonating warmly in my chest. We moved to the dining table to eat, sharing polite laughter over small stories, office anecdotes, amusing miscommunications, trivial but comfortable topics. As the conversation flowed more easily, Jonathan poured 2 generous glasses of red wine. The velvety richness of the wine relaxed my nerves, allowing me to open up, the walls around my usual caution gently lowering. Jonathan's eyes held a magnetic depth as he leaned in slightly, genuinely attentive. "Tell me, Caleb, what do you truly want from your career?" Beyond impressing Ryan. His question caught me slightly off guard, yet I appreciated his interest. Honestly, stability, fulfillment, feeling that my contributions matter. Eventually, maybe something of my own. A consulting firm, perhaps. His expression softened thoughtfully. "Admirable, and absolutely achievable from what I see. You have a quiet confidence about you. It's rare." Warmth rushed to my cheeks, and I sipped my wine, grateful for the glass to hide behind momentarily. "Thank you," I murmured softly, unsure how else to respond to his gentle flattery. After dinner, Jonathan insisted we leave dishes for later and invited me into the living room. "Let's relax," he suggested gently, eyes twinkling again, with that easy charm. I rarely get evenings like this anymore. Settling into the spacious couch, I chose a spot safely distant from Jonathan, or so I thought. He sat closer than expected, and I couldn't help but notice the faint scent of his cologne, rich, earthy, subtly intoxicating. We agreed on a classic, comedy, something lighthearted to keep the mood casual, but my awareness of Jonathan intensified with each passing moment. The living room lights dimmed, the television cast flickering shadows across the walls, yet I barely registered what played. On screen, my heartbeat quickened every time Jonathan laughed, his deep chuckle vibrating warmly beside me. Occasionally, his knee brushed lightly against mine. Accidental touches, yet each sent electric currents through my veins. I found myself hyper-aware of every movement, every sigh, every slight shift in his posture. Jonathan seemed equally aware, occasionally casting glances my way, eyes holding a subtle but unmistakable intensity. Each glance lingered longer, carrying unspoken words and quiet intrigue. The air between us grew charged, tinged with anticipation. When Jonathan shifted slightly closer, leaning forward to reach for the wine bottle on the coffee table, our shoulders brushed. A small, innocent contact. But my breath caught, throat tightening. Jonathan seemed equally affected, hesitating for just a fraction of a second longer than necessary, eyes briefly meeting mine, reflecting the same subtle surprise and mutual interest. Quickly, I masked my reaction with an awkward smile. "Sorry, I didn't mean," he chuckled softly, cutting me off gently. "Relax, Caleb. It's nice having your company." My pulse thundered loudly in my ears, and I tried to quiet my thoughts, reminding myself again. Jonathan was Ryan's father, my boss's father, yet my body stubbornly ignored these reminders, drawn to his effortless charm and quiet strength. Jonathan's voice pulled me back from my thoughts. "You know, it's been a long time since I felt this comfortable around someone." His words held layers of meaning, carefully masked yet evident beneath their surface. I turned to face him more fully, eyes locking briefly again, unsure how to respond. The sincerity in his expression was unmistakable. "Me too," I finally admitted softly, surprised by my honesty. A gentle silence fell between us, warm and heavy with unspoken understanding. Jonathan cleared his throat gently, as though struggling with words. "Caleb, I realize this might be inappropriate given our circumstances, but you're a remarkable person. It's been unexpectedly nice getting to know you." My heart swelled at the genuine compliment, though anxiety tightened in my chest. "It's mutual," I confessed quietly. "Unexpected but nice." He smiled again, eyes crinkling warmly. "Good." We settled back into silence, yet something significant had shifted. My internal battle raged silently, torn between caution and desire, professional obligations and personal attraction. I glanced at Jonathan again, noting the thoughtful expression, softening his features. The boundaries between us had blurred subtly, yet unmistakably tonight. Sitting in this quiet, shared intimacy, I knew that the attraction simmering beneath the surface was mutual, real, and undeniably complicated. Yet, despite knowing the complications awaiting me, I couldn't bring myself to regret this evening, the unexpected closeness with Jonathan, or the thrilling uncertainty of what might come next. After the movie ended, neither of us moved right away. The silence between us, though comfortable, felt loaded with something deeper, something neither of us fully acknowledged yet. Jonathan finally rose from the couch, stretching his strong frame with an effortless grace. "It's a beautiful night outside," he remarked quietly, glancing toward the patio. "Care to join me for a bit?" "I'd like that," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady as I stood, subtly smoothing my clothes and hoping my nerves weren't obvious. Outside, the night air held a pleasant coolness, refreshing after the closeness indoors. Stars dotted the sky above, glittering softly. Jonathan poured another glass of wine for each of us, the gentle splash breaking the quiet, before handing me mine with a warm, reassuring smile. We sat in cushioned patio chairs around a glass table, quietly sipping wine and absorbing the tranquility of the suburban night. The gentle trickling of the koi pond nearby mingled with distant sounds, rustling trees, crickets, an occasional car passing by somewhere far off. It felt peaceful, removed from everything else, as if only the two of us existed beneath this vast, starry sky. Jonathan's voice finally broke the silence, his tone softer and more reflective now. "I apologize if tonight got a little personal. I don't usually open up so easily." His openness surprised and touched me. I turned toward him, heart softening. "You don't need to apologize. Honestly, it's nice seeing this side of you," he chuckled softly, shaking his head in self-deprecating amusement. "Well, it feels strangely comfortable talking to you. Truth is, it's been a challenging year. My divorce became final a few months ago." His gaze grew distant, thoughtful. I never realized how lonely I could feel until I was truly alone. My heart tightened sympathetically at his vulnerability, my voice gentle as I asked, "Do you regret it?" "No." He hesitated thoughtfully. It was the right decision. We both knew it for years. But still, after being with someone for so long, it's hard adjusting to being alone again. "I get that," I admitted softly, surprising myself at the ease of sharing my own truth. "I've had my own difficulties with relationships. My last one ended because I was too career-focused. It's hard finding someone who understands that ambition." Jonathan's expression softened further, his eyes genuinely empathetic. "I know exactly what you mean. It's rare to find someone who accepts that part of us without judgment." Quiet understanding settled between us, deepening the intimacy. Jonathan leaned closer, resting an elbow casually on the table, eyes locked warmly onto mine. "Caleb, from what I've seen tonight, Ryan was right. You're mature, sincere. Qualities I find very rare." The warmth of his words and the quiet intensity in his eyes caused heat to rise steadily to my face. "Thank you. Coming from you, that means a lot." Our conversation slowed, silence falling again as we watched the stars. Each passing second felt heavier, more charged. My pulse quickened each time I sensed Jonathan's gaze settling quietly on me, thoughtful and lingering. He shifted in his chair, clearing his throat gently as if summoning courage. "Forgive me if I'm overstepping again, but being here tonight with you, talking openly, it's made me feel alive again. I haven't experienced that in a very long time." My breathing hitched quietly, heart beating faster at his honesty. "I feel it too," I admitted softly, nervous excitement tingling at the edge of my voice. Jonathan reached out, gently placing his hand over mine, resting on the tabletop. The warmth and strength of his touch sent an electric current straight through my chest. I didn't move away. Instead, I slowly turned my palm upward, our fingers lightly intertwining, acknowledging the gravity of this silent moment. We both stilled, watching our linked hands quietly. Breathing slowed, yet pulses racing. The line between us blurred, the forbidden nature of this moment sharply evident, yet impossible to resist. My rational mind screamed warnings, but I ignored them, overwhelmed by the emotion welling in my chest, raw and powerful. Slowly, Jonathan stood, guiding me gently upward by our connected hands, until we were facing each other fully, closer now than before. His face, bathed gently in moonlight, carried uncertainty mingled with hope. "Caleb, I need to know if I'm crossing a boundary," he murmured softly, voice thick with barely restrained emotion. My heart pounded painfully, but I stepped forward slightly, closing the distance further. "Maybe," I whispered honestly, voice trembling. "But I don't want you to stop." His expression shifted then, relief and gratitude flooding his eyes before he gently cupped my cheek with his other hand, thumb tracing lightly along my jawline. My breath caught as he slowly leaned in, giving me time to reconsider. But I stayed, frozen, pulse drumming insistently, welcoming his approach. Then his lips touched mine, soft and tentative at first, exploring carefully, testing my response. My body responded instinctively, hesitation quickly dissolving into eagerness. I kissed him back hesitantly, then more passionately, fingers gripping his shirt lightly, drawing him closer. His strong arms circled my waist gently, pulling me firmly against his warmth, deepening the kiss as if finally allowing himself to surrender completely to the attraction we'd both felt building all evening. Time slowed, and everything else faded away except the warmth of Jonathan's embrace, his lips gentle but insistent, deepening our connection moment by moment. My mind spun with exhilaration and fear, fully aware of the enormity of crossing this boundary, but utterly unwilling to retreat. When we finally separated slightly, breathing unevenly, foreheads gently resting together, Jonathan's eyes searched, mine anxiously, voice barely audible. "Caleb, are you all right?" "Yes," I replied breathlessly, fingers still clutching his shirt gently. "Scared, thrilled, but yes." Jonathan smiled softly, pressing another gentle kiss against my lips, relief evident in his quiet sigh. Good. Because I'm feeling exactly the same way. Standing beneath the quiet stars, wrapped securely in Jonathan's embrace, I surrendered fully to this unexpected, irresistible moment, knowing I'd crossed an invisible line from which there was no turning back. The soft morning sunlight filtering through the curtains pulled me slowly from sleep, gently nudging me awake. For a moment I lay still, memories of the night before flooding back like vivid, fragmented dreams. Jonathan's gentle touch, his hesitant kiss, the warmth of his embrace beneath the stars. It all came rushing back, setting my pulse racing again, but excitement quickly turned to anxiety, twisting my stomach with a sudden rush of guilt and uncertainty. I sat up, rubbing my temples, trying to untangle the conflicting emotions whirling inside me. I had kissed my boss's father. What had I been thinking? I stared blankly at the ceiling, heart heavy with worry. Had we irreparably complicated things? Would this cost me my job, or worse, my reputation? The thought of disappointing Ryan, who trusted me implicitly, made my chest tighten painfully. Even more troubling was the idea of causing tension between Jonathan and his son. I didn't want to be the wedge that drove them apart. As doubts crowded my mind, a soft knock at the guest room door startled me from my troubled reflections. I quickly straightened up, pulse quickening again. "Come in," I called quietly, voice barely steady. The door opened slowly, revealing Jonathan standing there, dressed casually but neat, his expression cautious and a little hesitant. For a brief moment, neither of us spoke, unsure how to bridge the awkward tension between us. Finally, Jonathan stepped further into the room, closing the door gently behind him, though keeping a respectful distance. His eyes searched mine carefully. "Caleb, I hope I'm not intruding. I think we should talk." "I think you're right," I said softly, meeting his gaze nervously. "I've been up, thinking." Jonathan's expression softened, sympathetic. "Me too. And if I crossed a boundary, if I pushed you into anything you weren't comfortable with—" "You didn't," I interjected gently but firmly, wanting to erase the uncertainty from his eyes. "Jonathan, I wanted it as much as you did." He exhaled slowly, relief evident, though anxiety still lingered in his eyes. "Even so, I know the position I put you in. Ryan trusts you immensely, and I don't want to jeopardize your career or your relationship with him." My chest tightened again, touched by his genuine concern. "I'm worried about that too," I admitted quietly. "Not just about Ryan and my job, but about what this means for your family." Jonathan stepped closer, carefully sitting down, at the foot of the bed, maintaining respectful space but clearly wanting closeness. His voice was quiet, filled with honesty. "I won't lie. Things could become complicated, but I haven't felt this kind of genuine connection with anyone in a very long time. It wasn't just impulse or loneliness. It meant something." Hearing him voice my own inner truth made the pressure in my chest ease slightly. I reached out, cautiously, placing my hand gently atop his on the bedspread, the contact reassuring to us both. "It meant something to me too," I whispered. "More than I thought possible." Jonathan turned his hand over gently, intertwining our fingers once more, a comforting familiarity already developing between us. "If we continue down this path, there might be consequences. It won't be easy. I want you to be sure it's something you're ready to handle." "I know," I replied honestly. "And I am worried about what could happen. But what scares me more is the thought of losing this connection, of never knowing what it could become." His gaze softened deeply, eyes reflecting my own vulnerability and hope. "I feel the same. If this is what you want, Caleb, I promise I'll be careful. I'll speak to Ryan honestly when the time is right. I don't want secrets or shame around something this important." Gratitude swelled within me, mingled with a new courage that overshadowed my earlier anxiety. "Then let's face it together," I murmured sincerely. "Whatever happens, I trust that what we felt was real. I can handle whatever comes next, as long as you're beside me." Jonathan smiled softly, relief and affection evident as he gently squeezed my hand. "Together," he echoed quietly. "No matter what, Sitting there in the quiet warmth of the morning, I felt my heart calm slightly, reassured by the mutual trust we'd begun to build. Though uncertainty still loomed, I no longer regretted the risks we'd taken. Instead, I felt ready, hopeful, and genuinely excited to discover what our shared future might hold. Late morning sunlight painted the driveway in soft golden hues, bathing Jonathan's car in a gentle warmth as he packed the last of his belongings into the trunk. I stood nearby, watching silently, my heart a conflicted jumble of hope, fear, and cautious excitement. Jonathan closed the trunk gently, turning to face me with a soft, reassuring smile. The uncertainty from earlier had eased somewhat, replaced by quiet determination and mutual trust. His gaze settled warmly on mine, holding my attention effortlessly. "I'll speak to Ryan as soon as it makes sense," Jonathan said softly, stepping closer and placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. His touch was gentle, grounding me. "I promise, Caleb. I'll handle it carefully, respectfully. You won't be left dealing with this alone." I nodded slowly, deeply touched by his sincerity. "Thank you. That means a lot to me." Jonathan's thumb brushed lightly over my shoulder in reassurance. "I meant what I said earlier. You're important to me. Whatever comes next, I want to do this right. But we should both take a bit of time to think clearly about how we want this to unfold." "I agree," I admitted softly, understanding the wisdom in his caution, even as part of me yearned to hold on to him a little longer. "We both need time to process everything." He reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a small card with his personal phone number written clearly on it. Handing it to me gently, his eyes searched mine earnestly. "Call or text me anytime. I want you to know you can reach me whenever you need to talk about anything." "Thank you," I whispered sincerely, accepting the card with quiet gratitude. I slipped it carefully into my pocket, feeling a renewed connection, even in this moment of parting. Jonathan stepped forward again, his arms enveloping me in a warm, comforting hug. I melted into the embrace, savoring the quiet reassurance it provided. We stood there for a long moment, breathing softly together, reluctant to let go, but understanding it was necessary. "Take care of yourself, Caleb," Jonathan murmured gently against my ear. "I'll see you soon." "You too," I replied softly, releasing him slowly, eyes meeting one last time, holding quiet promises and shared hopes. Jonathan offered me one final gentle smile before climbing into his car. I stepped back slightly, giving him space to depart, chest tightening slightly as the engine started softly. He pulled away slowly, waving gently through the window, gaze lingering on mine, until the last possible moment. Standing alone in the driveway as his car disappeared from view, I felt a profound shift inside me. In just a weekend, Jonathan had changed me, opening my eyes to deeper possibilities, new risks, and genuine feelings I hadn't anticipated. The complexity of our situation still lingered heavily, yet it didn't overshadow my newfound sense of clarity and excitement. Life, I realized, rarely unfolded in predictable patterns. It moved unexpectedly, beautifully chaotic, forcing us into decisions we could never fully anticipate. But this time, despite the challenges ahead, I felt hopeful. Hopeful for whatever lay next, and eager to discover what our connection could become. I turned toward the house, taking a deep breath, heart full and quietly optimistic. The uncertainty was undeniable. But as I glanced once more at the spot where Jonathan's car had vanished, I smiled softly to myself. Whatever came next, I was ready. Ready to embrace the excitement, the complications, and the quiet beauty of life's unpredictable turns, knowing somehow that Jonathan would be part of my future, and that thought alone was enough to steady my resolve.